everyone should have access to professional development for free. That's why Beehive is a community organization, and we work with a lot of different organizations to achieve that. For example, if we go to the next slide, we can see that our last collaboration was with LinkedIn. So I guess that everyone, can we go to the next slide? So we can see that in our previous program called Begin Your Career, we collaborated with LinkedIn China. And so the picture on the left is from our mentorship program, where we had 50 participants from Beijing, and like both students and young professionals, and 50 coaches. So we had coaches from LinkedIn and Standard & Poor's from the Beijing office. So we were very grateful to have, for example, the president of LinkedIn China, the CEO of LinkedIn Asia Pacific to mentor our students. So that was incredible. So our next program with LinkedIn is going to happen soon. So if you want to know more about our programs, make sure to follow our official account. If we go to the next slide now, we can see that we also provide leadership programs to students. So right now we have done this in Beijing, but we will be delivering the similar programs that help you develop different skills in Shanghai as well. So as Qinghe mentioned, he mentioned the MBTI. So the MBTI stands for Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So it's like a personality assessment tool. And actually it's used by many companies to kind of build teams and see if you're the right fit for a specific position. So it's so knowing more about yourself. So if you see the picture on the bottom left, so that's one of that's a picture from our previous MBTI, where we had more than 200 participants. So it's understand yourself. So that's one thing. Again, we have public speaking, we have intercultural communication, we have a lot of different talks that we do for our students. So if you want to know more about Beehive and our programs, feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, I look forward to learning more about banking from Greg and Kiri. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thank you, Petrus. And now, please, yes. So we are Hives Consulting, and we are a startup. As you can see, we are a career consulting company focusing on helping students to achieve their educational and professional goals. We have experienced mentors who can provide guidance and help to students. And our service include essay or dissertation proofreading, CV adversary, and one-to-one sessions. Okay, now let's welcome our speakers, Greg and Kiri.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so Greg, he is now working as an Associate Vice President in HBC London, and he is also the founder of Hive Consulting. And Kiri is he is an investment bank analyst in BNP Paribas. So both of them have been tutoring and offering advice for students for many years. Greg 他现在是伦敦汇丰银行交易风险转换项目的负责人 ，Kiri 是伦敦法国巴黎银行的投资银行分析师。对，Then let's start our questions. So Greg and Kiri, we all know that you both work in banking industry. So could you please introduce a little bit more about yourself, then tell us what made you decide to get into banking industry? Do you want to start first, Kiri?
Oh yes, of course. Thank you very much, Lynn, for the introductions. So yeah, as Lynn said, my name is Kyriakos. I also come from Cyprus, just like Petros and Gregor. I studied economics in Cyprus and graduated in 2018. And right after that, I was admitted at Imperial College London with a full scholarship for the Masters in Finance. And I graduated in 2019, September. And right after that, I started working at BNP Paribas in investment banking, working specifically within the financial institutions team, covering banks, basically. So that's my introduction, and I'm more than welcome to ask any questions you may have and follow up on anything related to investment banking and banking in general.
Okay. How about you, Greg? I noticed that you studied civil engineering during undergraduate. So what's your story for you and the banking?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Lynn, and thanks a lot, Petros and Kyriakos, for the introduction of Beehive and investment banking so far in your careers. So my name is Gregor, as already mentioned. Indeed, I have studied civil engineering back in Cyprus. We were in the same university with Kyriakos, actually, but we had never met when we were back in Cyprus. And during my studies in civil engineering, it was when the subprime financial crisis hit our island, and the major banks of the island, with many people losing their savings. So that triggered my interest to understand more about the financial industry and what has gone wrong during that period. So I applied for different master degrees in UK, and I was admitted a full scholarship from the University of Glasgow for a course in financial risk management. And then post my graduation in Glasgow, I started working within Morgan Stanley, both in operational risk positions and market risk positions. And after 1.5 years in Glasgow, I decided to take the next step in my career and move to London. Since it's a financial center, it will be a challenging environment. And with Brexit coming in UK, I thought it was the ideal move to me to move into HSBC and work into a more competitive environment. That's it from me in short, but we are more than happy to answer any questions in the Q&A session later.
Okay. That's a very impressive experience. So now we all know why banking is so appealing to us, and banking sounds like a meaningful and challenging jobs for you. So now I'm kind of curious. So how is your work schedule looks like on your regular day at banking? Kiri, do you want to start first?
Yes, of course. A regular day in banking, that's an interesting question. So yeah, usually the alarm goes off at around 6 a.m. and at 6:15 you can find me in the gym. I try to squeeze in a very quick workout, 45 minutes tops. At 7 I'm back in my flat. I get ready quickly and I'm out of the door at 7:30 tops. Try to be in the office by 8, and between 8 and 8:30 I try to catch up with emails and the news. I also have my breakfast at my desk because I don't have any other time actually to do that. So 8 to 8:30 breakfast at desk, catch up on emails and the news. 8:30 to 9 my manager usually comes in, and most of the times at 9 we have a catch-up meeting and a meeting to schedule our day, our deliverables, what's on the agenda, any meetings we may have and we need to prepare for, who are we seeing this week, what are we working on, just to briefly go through everything, and so we're all up to speed and up to date with what's happening. By 10 o'clock everybody heads off to work on whatever they're working. I dare to say that although an analyst, I'm pretty independent, and I work across teams, not only in the banking team, in the UK banking team, which is my, let's say, official position. I also work with Turkish banks, Greek banks, with sovereign wealth funds who are led by other directors. So after the initial meetings in the morning, I head off to work on the individual projects that I'm currently assigned to with the respective directors that are leading them. We have, so regarding the length of the day, we usually start working on our project by 10 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and it might go all the way up to 10 p.m. at night. And a good day would be being home by 9 p.m. That would be a very good day, actually. Yeah, that's more like a typical day, although a typical day doesn't really exist, as Gregor might agree. Gregor, what's your view on this?
Yeah, indeed, Kiriako, I agree, and I find myself aligning with many of the things that you said already. I think other people that we might have also in the audience might agree if they had experience or if they are working currently in banking as well. So I can also give like my typical day in banking. I think for most of the people, they might have read already the article that we posted in our WeChat official account. So I will try not to repeat the same things. As Kiriako said, yes, indeed. I think most of us will try to exercise a bit, but we need to squeeze that at the beginning of the day because we are not really sure when our day is going to finish.
Exactly.
So we put the effort, even in UK, it's a bit cold, to wake up a bit earlier and go to the gym in the morning. And I think that's a good thing because it wakes you up and it prepares you for the day. So you get that feeling that I'm awake and exercising when the rest of people are sleeping. So it's a good thing. Now, in terms of a typical day, I will drill a bit more into details of what I'm doing rather than repeat what I said on the article. So I mainly cover, let's say, projects within HSBC. So projects that are related to risk management. So generally a project has different phases. So we will have the requirements gathering phase. So it's where me and my team, we meet with the front office guys, with traders, with the risk managers, and with the risk controllers. And we try to understand what are the requirements for each project. For example, last year, I have been working on the opening of a new branch of HSBC. So due to Brexit, HSBC wanted to open a new branch within an English-speaking country. So we were moving legally our headquarters in France due to Brexit, but we wanted to have also an English-speaking country so we can serve our clients. So what we wanted to understand is that in case we have to start trading in Ireland, what are the required things or documentations or communication with regulators or changes in our system that we have to do in order to do that. So first we gather the requirements, which is documents and data flows, so we can understand all the changes and the impacts. And then we have working groups with our IT teams and with all the divisions that are involved to explain to them what are the required changes. Then there is a period of time where our IT teams are writing the code. And then this is when, again, we step in to do the testing. So it's not just the IT teams to do the necessary work, but we also have to validate whatever risk the new systems or the new processes will be calculating. Because in case anything goes wrong, or in case you might miss a decimal place, then you might be over-calculating or under-calculating your risk and your exposures, which might lead to any issues or defaults during periods like we are going now with COVID-19, where the market had, let's say, a significant shock. Usually, my day finishes around 8:30, and what I try to do once I'm back home is to try to read the book and relax, or maybe sometimes like do a qualification or a course in Coursera, so I can keep my learning curve steep, and I can also keep myself entertained when I'm back home, rather than just watching Netflix. That's it from me.
Although you do like that, don't you?
Indeed. It's interesting. That's it from me as well. I don't know if, Lynn, you have anything to add or
sorry,
else?
I mute.
Yeah.
I'm so impressive that you guys really make the full use of your time. And even though you are working in different banks, you have different job responsibilities, but you seem to have the same similar schedules. Like you wake up early, do exercise, and you have lots of email meetings and brainstorming every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's very impressive. Okay, so now I have a question. It's like when you have been working in banking for many years, and do you ever feel boring or stressful? So since you're working in a company for a long time, how do you handle these emotions?
Good question. Good
Kiri?
question. Should I give it a go?
Yes, Kiri, please.
Okay. So yeah, banking can be a bit overwhelming at times. That's a fact actually, because you might find yourself working on things that might not be that interesting to you, and I did find myself doing that at times. But that's life, I guess. You don't always get to do what you like and what you do, and this gets compensated with doing things that you really find interesting. For example, in my role, being a junior member of the team, like an analyst, sometimes I find myself doing things like administrative tasks, which do not involve any research, any analysis. And I consider them sometimes to be a bit, as Lynn put it, boring maybe. However, there's always the, when you think about it as a way of, let's say, building the infrastructure and putting, let's say, the correct pillars in place in order to actually get the deal and get the interesting work, then it makes more sense and it makes it feel less boring. So yes, you do get to do things which you don't always like, but on the other hand, you do get to work on interesting things. For example, a client of ours right now is working on a big restructuring project. They're restructuring themselves. They didn't have any results, the results they wanted in the last quarters. So they're going through a big restructuring process. And my team, for example, is advising their CEO directly. We held meetings with their CEO, and so we, as analysts and associates, we prepare the research and the let's say we do the projections, and then our director advises the CEO of the company directly, and that's something which I find really interesting. And the client being a really important player in the global market, yes, you do get to feel as if your work does have some impact on the economy in general, and that for me compensates the boring work you get to do sometimes.
Interesting, Kyriakos.
Mm-hmm. And Gregor, what do you?
Well, on the 2 points, stressful and boring, I think it depends also on the personality of each person, or what do you define boring, and what are your, let's say, stress limits. In terms of boring, at least for the first year in a position, you have a lot of things to learn. So I don't think that if you're in the right position that fits your personality, as Petros said, I don't think that you will find it boring. Of course, there are ups and downs, but I guess there is always work to be done. So if you have a positive attitude, then you will not, let's say, find yourself being bored. Now, on the other side, in banking in general, people encourage rotations within positions. So although it's good to be specialized in something, it's also good to have the ability to see the broader picture. So you might see the people moving from finance to risk, or the other way around, or from risk to relationship management. So you see these rotations, and the good thing is that each of these people are bringing a different skill set. So you have a good blending, and it also makes you able to say, okay, what's the next step that I can take, where I can go next from here where I am. Now, in terms of stress, of course, you might be dealing, as you said, Kyriakos, with a big client. You might be working with, let's say, Brexit timelines or any regulatory other timelines. So, of course, you're under pressure and you need to deliver. But usually what I do when I find myself under like this enormous, let's say, stress, I just go for a walk. 5 minutes walk, like go away from the desk, take some fresh air, and then go back with a like clear mind, and then see the things or the task again, so I can break it down into a smaller pieces. What we usually say, at least in traded risk transformation, is that we usually see the project as a mountain that we have to move it to the city. So we usually say, okay, if you have a mountain and you have to move it, you have to break it as many small pieces as you can. That's the only way. So we take a big project, we break it down into small pieces, and that's how we deliver the project with the required timelines.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah, that's really a good point. So like every job can be boring as long as you can find a, if you can find something you're interested in, it can be meaningful as long as you find a way to grow your skills and yourself. Okay. So next question is, I guess that many of our audience are interested to get into banking industry someday in the future, or now they are working in banking. So what kind of skills and qualifications do you think we need to get a job in banking? Greg, can you please start?
That's an interesting question, actually. And I think it's a very difficult one to answer because each position might have a different required skill set. But I will give it a try and see. So for me, like, I'm more on the soft skill side. So I think in getting a job in banking, you need to have a good networking skills. It's very important, if it's possible, to seek advices from people that they are already working in banking, or if, let's say, someone can refer you or explain to you how their team is operating, then you can adjust your CV to demonstrate that you have the required skills. So networking is very important. And it happened to me when I was getting my second job in Morgan Stanley. The week before, I was in a drinks at a pub in Glasgow, and I met my future interviewer. So after a week, I had the interview with her without even knowing it. So that was a good way, because we already have spoken before, and without even knowing it, then you might be interviewing, or you might be have a conversation with your future interviewer or your future manager. Now, something else that is not really a skill, but I think is definitely required as a mindset, is to always prepare. Hello? Okay, so what I was saying is that you always have to be prepared. Either it's preparing for an interview or anything else, or a task. Like, at least from my side, when I was applying for jobs, I was reading material and doing any online qualifications, or doing my research and reading the financial news, like I was having the interview the next day. So that allows you to be always ready. And anytime like an opportunity comes, then you are able to nail it down. Now, the last bit, and I would say it's very important nowadays, is to have a bit of coding knowledge. I think you will see positions from front office to back office leveraging on technology in order to automate tasks. So especially those tasks that Kyriakos said that are a bit admin and you find yourself like getting bored, if you are able to automate and have a machine doing the job for you, then that's much better, because you allocate your time more efficiently and you allocate your time on things that you find more interesting.
When you build that machine, Gregor, please send it over.
I will try to. I think we can actually have a brainstorming session together and maybe try and find a solution for that.
Okay, of course, that's good. And on my side, I'll try to summarize the skills I think are the most helpful from my experience and from the experience of colleagues of mine, and also from young students that I get to speak with on LinkedIn and on Superprof, the tutoring platform. First of all, what will get you into banking is being able to effectively communication. At least from what I see, the people at the BNP Paribas, at least my directors, the managing directors, everybody, they really like working with people who can express themselves, who have an opinion about what's happening in the markets, who are aware of what's happening in the world in general. So that implies reading the Financial Times or the Economist and other newspapers, and so that's that. Being able to express yourself effectively and explain in simple terms what's happening in the markets right now and how that might affect a client, for example. Another skill or another thing which I've identified as important in getting into banking is having an experience either in London or in a financial center around the world, be it London or New York or in Shanghai, for example. And that doesn't mean getting a proper internship. It might mean volunteering or having an unpaid job just to have it on your resume. Friends of mine who have, comparing friends who had experience in London and friends who didn't have experience in London, those who had a way easier time finding a job in London, than their next job in London. And if I knew that earlier, I would have tried to find an unpaid job in London.
I totally agree with that, Kyriakos, actually, because especially for me, like I came from Cyprus as you.
Exactly.
We from a different background, talking a different language. So I had 6 months time until, let's say, Christmas to apply for all these graduate jobs and get an interview and compete with all the other, let's say, people that are graduating from Oxford and Cambridge and all these fancy universities and prestigious. So you have to compete with all these people. So not having like a relevant job experience, I think that's make it even much more difficult. And especially in an environment like banking, I think I can understand what you're saying.
So an advice from us right now, what you can do right now actually is if you're planning to come to London very soon in the next year, you can start looking for a part-time unpaid job in London, for example, to have it ready from September onwards. And you could work there once or twice a week and have it on your CV as a London experience. And trust me, that's going to make a lot of difference. And that's a secret. Let's keep it between the community, okay? So yes, I would say that what you should be focusing on is reading the news and knowing what's going on, communication, being able to express these views, and also building some work experience on your CV in a financial center, be it London or Shanghai, for example.
Just to add something on this one, Kyriakos, that I forgot to mention earlier. I think it's not a skill that it will make you get the interview, but it's a skill that it will make you take the job. I think it's something that the career advisor told me actually when I was meeting the career services office in Glasgow. He writes me 2 words, like 2, let's say, adjectives. He says, be unique and be interesting. So you always have to think in our mind that the people that are hiring you, they are hiring someone that they will be spending more time with him rather than their own families.
Exactly.
It's really important when you go to that interview to do some research, see who is going to be interviewing you. Does it have any hobbies? So you can try and find some common ground. Let's say your interviewer might be liking climbing or cycling. So it's good to add some of your hobbies or some of your interests in your CV. So that will be used as a let's say discussion point, as a common ground. So it will make both of you feel more comfortable during the interview process, and it will potentially give you that offer that many of us wanted or want. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Kiri. That's a really good point. So from my side, I think what you said just now apply to all the jobs. yes, you have to always be prepared in advance before you want to find a job. Like you have to prepare every day, not just one day or 1 week before you want to start searching for jobs. And you have to find something like you can absorb knowledges, or you can reading relevant books or taking some online courses.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways that can help you increase your knowledge, and you have to also
Totally agree. Yeah.
practice your communicating skills that maybe can help you stand out when you are doing interview. Okay, so let's all questions from me. Do you have any questions, our audience?
I will unmute. Give us 1 second. I will unmute everyone. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them either in Mandarin or in English. If it's in
Yes.
English, we can answer directly. Otherwise, Lynn is going to make the translation for us. So, any questions from anyone?
Hey guys, I have one. I have a question. Yes, I have one. So guys, I'm wondering, in your first year of banking, do you have some type of training? For example, I know BNP Paribas is like a French bank, so do you have to, is it required for you to take French or to speak to clients or something like that? What type of training are you guys into?
Okay.
这个懂，这个应该是中国人，肯定是中国。
Okay, Tiago, do you want to give it a shot?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Jesse, for the question. So yes, I work at BNP Paribas. We do have 2 types of trainings that we have to go through. The first one is the regulations one for the FCA in order to be able to work in the financial industry.
好看，还挺有范儿的。
So you get
但这个有点大，对你来
to
说
be。certified as a person in order to work in the industry. That's something that everybody does. And the other one, which is let's say more of a depends on the department you work in, is the financial modeling training. We do have some trainings on financial modeling, on how to let's say the best practices when building a model or when doing some research. There are some templates, some let's say guidelines on how the bank wants people to do that. And that depends on the team actually, and depends on your director and how structured they want the work to be. So we do have some templates we're using, and we need to learn how to use them and utilize them for consistency purposes, first of all. And so that's it about the trainings. And regarding French, you can take French lessons actually if you want. And I was very close to taking them, but I didn't have time. But it's not something you need to do. You don't need to. The clients, everything's in English. Although you do get to work with many French banks, French companies in general. But you don't need to speak French. But at BNP Paribas, trust me, 2/3 of the people speak French there.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I will unmute again all of you guys, but please try to don't have any background noise if possible.
想提个问题，我害怕这儿太吵，这儿吵吗？
Any other questions from anyone?
How many rounds of
Yes.
interviews did you have to do for both of you? When you applied for the job, how many rounds did you have to speak to different HRs? Yeah.
Okay, so that depends. It depends on you, on the position, Jesse. So during my first application in Morgan Stanley, it was a single interview. So they just invite you directly to a face-to-face interview, and either you get the job or you're not. So that was a temp position. So you initially start in the bank for 6 months, And then if you perform well, then you get an offer for a permanent position. Now, imagine that I was already in Morgan Stanley as a contractor. And then when I converted into a permanent role, I had another 3 interviews. So it was 2 interviews that were technical with vice presidents and a manager, and with an executive director and a senior manager. And then the final one was with only the HR. Now, I think Kyriakos can give you also the graduate perspective, because he has been through it and all these assessment centers. So you can get also because there are different types of jobs. There are permanent jobs, there are contracts, and there are graduate schemes.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, about BNP Paribas, for the grad scheme, you apply through the website. You get some online tests you need to complete, verbal reasoning. So, and these tests include have 3 parts usually. For BNP Paribas, one of the tests was on verbal reasoning, like English in general and English comprehension, maths, and the other one was in general IQ questions, some tricky questions with puzzles and whether you understand the patterns and the sequences. After that, you get invited to a phone interview, mm-hmm. and that's with a team member, not with the HR. And which in my case, on that interview, I spoke with 2 people, my line manager, my current line manager, and our director. And it was, the interview was about myself, some technical questions, and market awareness. After that, we had an assessment center where, if I remember correctly, we were 30 people, and 4 or 5 of us were hired. And during the assessment center, there were 2 rounds actually, a morning session and an afternoon session. And in the morning session, 15 of us left the room. They were rejected, and the rest remained. We remained. In the morning session, we had to read an article actually about how climate change affects banking, and we had to present to the HR department on our findings and discuss in teams about our findings and argue with each other. So that was where they kind of assessed our communication skills and how well we can argue and communicate what we think and what we believe. And in the afternoon session, we had a test. We had a test actually, mathematics test and verbal reasoning. So it was kind of they wanted to verify that our results on the tests, the online tests, were actually true. And apart from the tests, we also had interviews again with managing directors. And then a few days later, we received our offers. So it was online tests, phone interview, a super day, an assessment center, which it started at 9 and finished at 6. It was a super day, and that was it. 3 rounds, but it was pretty difficult actually.
Thanks. Very informative, yeah.
Thank you, Jesse, for the questions. Any other questions from our audience?
I'm not sure. Have you seen this question? Grace typed on the meeting.
Uh-huh.
She said she is not majored in finance, but he's doing MBA now.
Okay.
So what kind of models, like financial models, can she take to help to be a research analyst in IB?
I can take models like financial modeling. We know also help. Okay. Should I?
Yes. Give it a try.
Okay. Hello, Grace. Thanks for the question. So you're doing an MBA and you can take modules like financial modeling, and you're wondering whether that will help you becoming a research analyst in IB. In terms of technical skills, it will definitely help you once you get the job. The important thing is to actually get the job first. But yeah, the module will definitely help you, because a research analyst will definitely have to build models, make projections, and then put that output in a presentation. So that definitely will help you. Other topics which I might recommend is if you can take any courses in valuation with multiples, because the valuation language of investment banking is multiples. Everything revolves around multiples. Yeah, after you get the job, these modules will be very important and very helpful. Although you will also get training on the job. Everybody attends 1 week or 2 week training programs in the beginning of their graduate program. Yes.
Thank you, Kiri.
Cool.
And there's one question from Eric. He is asking, what do you think the coronavirus will impact the bank industry? Craig, can you answer him?
That's an interesting question. So I have been working for the last 4 years in UK, and I have never worked from home. I was always going to the office, and now it's the first time I find myself for the last 2 weeks having to work from home, because usually we have to be at the office and talking with our internal clients in HSBC. So it's a unique experience to be working from home. Apart from this, I think the other impact that other industries might experience, let's say, it's like the firing of different people. I think luckily in banking, the banks care a lot about their reputation risk. So what they try to do is to stand still at the moment. So I think many banks like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley announced that they are going to not fire anyone, and the positions of all their employees are safe. I think from HSBC side though, I think it was a big restructuring that has been announced at the beginning of the year, with firing, like, let's say 30,000 employees, which is a crazy number. I think I don't think that many banks have done something similar in their history. I think that one though, it's getting on hold at the moment, because I think the bank understands the extreme situation that we are facing as a planet and the impact on the economy. So I think the banking organizations, since they are making the market or they are moving the market, I think they understand the impact, and at least they are willing to support with their own costs. Kyriakos, I don't know what's your view on the topic, or what's the BNP Paribas impact?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. Although they won't be laying off any workers, at least in the meantime, many committed to not firing any workers. However, hiring, I believe it has frozen, and they won't be hiring any more people, at least in the very short term. In the next, definitely April, May period is going to be difficult. And hopefully from June and onwards, things will return back to normal. In terms of, at least from what I see from BNP, business is definitely down. Not many new deals flowing in. M&A, for example, mergers and acquisitions, there's nothing like, generally speaking, not at BNP level, the pipeline is really low, nothing in the pipeline in general. No companies are going public right now. The equity markets are completely dry. And the only thing which is a bit, which is still doing well, I would say, is the debt side of the market. Again, not speaking about BNP in general and what's on the BNP pipeline. In general, the debt market is doing well right now because of the liquidity that central banks have pumped in the market. Yes,
I totally agree. I think there is a question on the chat, so it's from Inko. She is in Shanghai, studying accounting, 4-year undergraduate, and then did a master as accounting and finance in Cardiff, a short internship in London, but it was not in a finance-related industry. and currently work in a non-finance related industry. So the question is, would like to go back to finance and now studying for a financial risk management course. Very interested in risk management, compliance, or strategy part of risk or finance. So what kind of internship or job should I look for, and what kind of preparation should I do? Okay. I don't think that it's impossible to go back to banking or finance. Nothing is impossible. It's how you set up your goals and what actions are you taking to fulfill them. As I said earlier, it's very important on how you structure your CV or how to sell yourself. So let's say that you currently work in a non-finance related industry, but you are able to demonstrate on your CV that although I'm doing something differently, I am studying something by myself related to risk management or finance. I am allocating time from my extra time to do that. I think there are always people that have the same mindset, or they want to help people for doing that. So what I would suggest is that try at least to pass level 1 FRM if you haven't done it, and try also to do some online courses. I think Coursera has, it's a huge resource of free courses. So there are courses about financial markets, risk management, financial engineering, and all of them are free. And feel free to reach out to me. I can send it to you after this session. So try to demonstrate that you're putting the effort, and try to restructure your CV in order to show that what skills have you obtained during that non-related, non-finance related experience that is going to be useful when you work in finance. So for example, any time management skills, any project management skills, any communication, as Kyriakos said earlier. So try to find the skills that are going to be useful in finance. And once you do that, then I think it's going to be, let's say, easier to go in. And the other thing is that, okay, many people say, okay, I want to do that, or I want to do this. I think it's important to send 10 applications here and there. Try to get some interviews and see what these people are asking. So you prepare yourself. And when you find the right time or the right job, then you're going to be ready. I don't think that is impossible again. It's just, it might take a bit of time until you are able to back up yourself with the required knowledge, or until you get that interview that it will lead to the final offer. Kyriakos, anything to add on this one?
Definitely not impossible. It could be a question of how well you're selling yourself, and how well you demonstrate to the recruiters your current skill set. Also, how long have you been, when did you finish your master's, and how long have you been out of the banking, let's say, sector? Because that might have some relevance here. But for example, a friend of mine, a colleague of, not a colleague of mine, a friend of mine who we studied together at Imperial, he was in a really kind of a desperate situation. He couldn't find anything. It was really, really difficult. And he started cold emailing and cold calling corporate finance boutiques, investment banking boutiques. And one of them, a really, really small boutique, let him work for them for free on a part-time basis while studying. 2019, I finished my master's. Okay, so it's very recent. So they hired him on an unpaid basis, on a part-time basis as well. And he had this on his CV. He had that on his CV as an investment banking off-cycle or intern or something like this. And that has helped him like tremendously. After that, he managed to get a grad scheme. He managed to get the assessment center at HSBC. He didn't get the grad scheme, but after that, he managed to get at least he was invited to the assessment at HSBC. And now he's an investment banking analyst in another small boutique. And that made all the difference for him, getting that unpaid job for a 3 months period. I don't know if you could do that as well, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind right now. Without having all the details about your background, that's the first advice that comes from me, at least.
I think equally it's important to make yourself stand out from the rest of the applicants. And that's what you always have to have in mind. Let's say if a company receives 100 CVs, why should they choose you if you are not working in a finance related area for the last year? You haven't been off the market for too long, but still, if they have someone else that is currently working in banking, why they should choose you? So that's the question that you should be asking yourself in order to take the necessary steps to make yourself more competitive in the job market.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Echo. Thank you, Greg, Kiri.
Any other questions?
So I guess due to the time is limited, that's all for today's webinar. If you guys have any more questions, please send the messages on our WeChat account.
Yeah.
We will be more than happy to answer.
I'm sharing my screen. Sorry to interrupt, Lynn. I'm sharing my screen now. So there is also this. Let me know, guys, if you can see it. So
yes,
give
yes,
us
we can
your
see.
CV or give us your, let's say, your feedback or any question that you may have. Feel free to reach out on our official WeChat account.
Any question, feel free. It would be a pleasure.
Lynn, anything else to add or to summarize for our session today?
Yes. Okay, thanks again, everyone. We all appreciate your participation today, and we hope that this webinar could enlighten your mind and inspire you in some way. And again, please keep following our account. We will post more interesting and useful articles in our WeChat account. And also we will hold more webinars in the future. Our next webinar is about law. And so if you are interested in law industry or you have any friends interested in law industry, please share our official WeChat account with them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys, for joining. Have a lovely weekend and stay safe from COVID-19.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Thank you, Greg.
for joining.
Thank you, Harry.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.